Hello and welcome. I am Sean Dubé.
I'm Patrick Quinlan.
And this is Supporting Actors, a podcast about the art, business, and craft of acting from the perspective of two sometimes working actors.
And Sean is demonstrating our topic for today, which is branding. He is rebranding himself as a British actor.
It's a hard launch that I am now
Americans.
from Kensington. Yeah.
And now you will play someone from Kansas City, but only because you have a nice British accent. No, we're talking about branding. We're talking about a thing I think actors have a love-hate relationship with. It's a word that pops up a lot because it's something you can control, theoretically. And marketing is something you can control. So when you are experiencing the downtimes and the slow times, it starts to feel like, is my branding working? What do I need to do to revamp it?
Yeah, I think branding is, how you let people know what your skill set is. But I think a lot of what you hear out there, a lot of what if you were to take class, I think they kind of get too specific in a way that kind of puts you into a niche, right? Like you don't want to typecast yourself fully, I don't believe, right? There's more opportunities out there. But I think that if you're thinking about what types of, vibes that you fit well into or you enjoy playing or shows, if you think about the shows that you would be a good fit on, there's a certain tone to that, there's a certain vibe to that, and that's something that you could tap into when you're creating your materials.
Well, let's first talk about, like, should we care about a brand? Do actors, you debate, I'll debate the opposite of you.
Yeah.
Is branding important or a waste of time?
All right. I will say that branding is not important,
Oh.
right? The industry is going to brand you as you get work.
Mhm.
So your materials need to be a reflection of you, right? And I think the further into revealing yourself you can go, the more likely you are to be successful. And I think that is true for choosing headshots, what font you decide to put on your resume, if you're still using that and not just sending people to Actors Access, or what how you sign off your emails, right? Like every communication with you is somehow revealing your character and your brand if you would. But I don't know that you need to. I think it should be an authentic representation of yourself. You are the brand. I don't think you need to dim your light to fit into a box that the industry is going to try to put you in anyways.
Yeah. Okay. I will say that branding is essential. It's and only in the sense that it saves you time. Branding is if as actors we want to play all the parts, but if someone can have a really clear, I heard this story of this guy, a Chicago actor back in the day. He's like, his first agent was like, "You're giving me salad, and I want you to sell me tomato. Like, I get that you can play everything, but I need you to be one thing for the job." Now, we're all going to play, we are actors, the idea, and we live and work in a creative industry, so people do have imaginations. It's hard to remember that they do sometimes, but they do. So I would say, like, the branding is your strike zone, or the low hanging fruit, for another metaphor.
Hmm.
That's the sweet spot. That's the thing. If you know what your thing is like, oh, I can wake up in the morning and do that thing, then most of your auditions will probably be related to that. Most of your jobs will be related to that. And then you're not spending a lot of time thinking about it. And then when you get something outside of the box, a little bit more of a stretch, that's the thing that you can put all your energy and passion toward. And after you start gathering work and collecting work and you've developed a brand, you can always break out of it and try to, and if you know what you're working with, you can know how to break the rules and to give people a new understanding of who you are. I guess saying I heard once, weirdly enough, I think from Jeff Ross, the roastmaster general,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, make a lane and then over time make it 6 lanes, like just widen it
Mm.
out more and more and more, but pick your lane and like really become the authority in it. I think, and it's hard. I struggle with it, but I think that was what branding needs to be. And nowadays, we've talked about this being a people person business, and you mentioned emails. So much of the work, so much of your representation of your brand is not coming from you directly. It's coming from your actor access profile, it's coming from your materials. That all has to speak to the same story and be a little cohesive so that people feel confident hiring you.
I can see the value in that. And I think for branding as well, if we're talking about the entertainment industry, there's a heavy preference for film and television because that's where the majority of the money is, and that probably is where branding is more important. I think if you're predominantly a theater actor, I think it's less so, and I think that's because the medium, like, they lend themselves to do different things.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? You tend to have more time with theater, so you can take a role or you can get a role that's well outside yourself, and there's an opportunity to make that happen. Whereas with film and television, there's so much money involved that it's like less of a risk, right? Can he get there? I don't know.
But you know what?
I haven't seen it.
It's interesting. Like, as I think if we were to think like Broadway, that would probably be maybe closer to film and TV because we were watching
Now,
the Tonys
yeah.
and a woman won the Tonys, and my wife goes, "We saw her in Frozen," which a friend of mine had been working on, and it came through LA, and so like probably that actress's career was leading lady, musical theater person, like, but dependable star of the tour, right? Because she had to do tour after tour after tour, and then eventually work this way to like getting this amazing part and a Tony. So you're like, you know, I think we all, our brains are wired to go to what's comfortable, and so the people making creative decisions, I'm not disagreeing with you. Like the theater that's a little more open ended, but you have a relationship with your audience, or they get used to. But you fall into the young ingenue, whatever.
You still fall into a type, right?
Yeah. Oh, you're old. You can play Scrooge every Christmas. Like,
Sure.
there's still types and stuff. But anyways, I don't know. It's something that we all have to wrestle with, I suppose, right?
It is. And I think this is my biggest challenge. And I think probably a lot of actors listening. And if you are, write us, send us an email at ask@supportingactors.com. Tell us what your experience with this is. But I think the hesitation with branding is that, sure, I would love to play an astronaut, right? So it's like, that sounds great. I don't want to be the guy that's just like, that's the astronaut dude. Like, let's just call him anytime we need an astronaut. Like, that's not what I want to do, because I also want to play other things. I also want to like play a love interest, or I also want to play a cop, or I also want to play a young father, or, so it's like there's different archetypes, I guess. And the industry does tend to want to put you into one, but like, do we need to do that to ourselves? I guess is my question.
I think yes, you do. If you want to book work and get paid, you have to.
Sure.
If you want to make enough, like, I have friends who like, we're two white guys talking right now, right? Cisgendered white guys. And if no one's asking me to be a gangbanger, right? And no one's asking me to play a terrorist, and no one's asking me to play a mom.
Right.
So the palette of, because of our privilege as white guys, the aperture is wider for whatever reason. But
more stories are told, right?
More stories are told. And so like, and there are, like there's Peter Dinklage, there's all sorts of actors who said, I will not play that archetype or that role. Or and then there's other actors who said, I want to make money. I want to make a living. And I'm going to then do the best, like be the guy you think of to play that part. And that's just a conversation you have to have with yourself. But I would say, like, you have to think about it, because there's not enough work. There's not enough
Especially
work
now.
for a singular actor to get to sort of like poo-poo things, I think. So, when I had shorter hair, I got EMTs all the time. Like I played an EMT on several different shows. And then I booked a job where it was like a lifetime TV movie thing, and I wasn't an EMT. I was so excited. 6 weeks later, they call and they say, "Hey, we're doing reshoots." I'm like, "Oh, cool!" And like it's like a second gig, right? And they reshoot it. They've written new scenes, and now I'm an EMT. And I asked I got to hang out on set, and like they shot me like on break with my wife, who was the supportive sister of the story, you know, in the back of my ambulance truck. And I was like, what? I asked the writer, I was like, why am I an EMT? He's like, oh, you're an EMT because I was an EMT in the army. I was a medic. But also like you have a very trusting face. And so it's like, oh, my brand is not EMT. My brand is trustworthy, or my brand is reliable, right? So like, and we're going to talk about that stuff. Before we move on, I do think there is an aspect of the whole machine in Hollywood and New York where, because branding is something you can control, there are a lot of ways to spend a lot of money determining what your brand is.
Yeah.
And marketing and branding is a way for people to sell something, like to sell the secrets and to get you to, because if you're worried about your brand and stressed out about your brand, you might spend money on a course to determine it. And maybe that would be helpful, but you could figure it out in other ways, which I think we'll discuss today.
Yeah.
So I think it's important, but I think it's not the be all end all in terms of where you invest your time and money. Yeah. But I like that we had a pretend debate about it.
Yeah, no, it was fun. It was like getting really heated there for a second. Yeah, so like is the actor
You're wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
My
Don't
brand is
make me
angry
come
guy.
over there.
Nah.
Yeah. Well, so but this kind of brings up some good questions though. Like, is the actor the brand? Is the personality the brand? Is casting type the brand? Like, so what is the brand? Is it your reputation? I think maybe all of these things kind of contribute to it, right? And I think you're
Yeah.
best off thinking of your brand as the impression people are left with when you leave.
Yeah,
Right?
I think you said the word earlier, and which is the word I like. It's your essence, right?
Yeah.
So, if people are intimidated by you and you get that, or people tell you every now and then, gosh, I didn't want to talk to you at first. You were a little intimidating. You now probably have a clue as an actor or actress that, oh, maybe I can play some high status people, right? I can
Right.
play, maybe I should wear certain clothes that are intimidating or high end, or like, whatever that is for you, and lean
Sure.
into that and see
Play with
what
status.
it
Yeah.
gets you. And now maybe that person, if someone says, "Yeah, I thought you were intimidating," they don't find you that intimidating now. So then that's another side of yourself. It's like, well, where does that fit in?
So
It's the first impression, I think,
yeah.
mostly.
Yeah, it is. I've never done this, but when I was in school, one of my classmates took a clipboard out in New York City
Mhm.
and just asked like 200 people what job that she thought, like what job do you think I have,
Yeah.
right? And then just like top 3, what jobs do you think I have? And like that's what she did, and she accrued this like big list, and she was able to like get more specific with what she wanted to do. So that is like absolutely an approach that will cost you nothing. And you'll get a lot of information just from random strangers of like, excuse me, sir, what job do you think I
Strangers
have?
thing is the important part there, right?
Yeah.
Because you can do these. We're going to talk about different exercises you could do to figure out your brand, but you can do them with friends. But your friends already know quite a bit about you, or
Yeah.
have different feelings about you. They certainly like you. So you might not get the most honest. You certainly shouldn't do it with like, I won't do it with my mother, right? Like that will be like
Yes.
not
Yeah.
Like,
Like,
I
whatever you
mean,
want, my sweet angel baby.
oh
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
but strangers who don't know and they're just reacting to what they see,
What's in
right?
front of them?
And now you could probably, it'd be interesting to do that same exercise with the clipboard
Sure.
dressed in a suit versus dressed in
Well, this is
cavalier.
exactly where I was going with it. It's like you can deliberately manipulate those results, I
Sure.
think, because we can be
But
characters.
maybe not. Like, because if you did suit versus non-suit, and then they're like, yeah, but you have this quality about you, like
Sure.
maybe there would be some crossover where you're like, oh, even with the suit, this quality is still pretty high, or this, thing.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it also goes into like your voice is part of it, like everything, your entire your essence, right? Like, I think that is a good factor. And such a wild experience. A total tangent that has nothing to do with branding that I'll probably cut later, but a funny experience nonetheless. But that's
yeah.
all part of it. Is like when you show up, right? How you interact with the people around you is going to dictate what some of this might be.
Yeah, I think if you're an extrovert or an introvert, if you present as someone who's confident, or you present as someone who's a little more meek, like it's just like, I think it's important to know, because how people see you, because then oh, for this type of, I don't have to do much. Like,
Right.
oh, I got this character and this kind of fits in
Yeah.
my wheelhouse,
Right.
versus like, oh, I got to do my hair today because I'm usually the person who's disheveled, but this character takes care of
You
themselves.
kind of
So
know what your baseline is, right? It's like,
yeah.
so then you can, from there, you can figure out which direction you're going. So for me, if you're not watching us on YouTube or if you haven't looked us up, I'm a very clean cut, upscale looking, like I straight up look like my dad owns a boat. It could not be further from the truth, but that's what it looks like, right?
Right.
So that's the impression that I have. And throughout school, oftentimes they would try to like, let's stretch you into this like lower class character that's like the shady underbelly. And it's like, I can do that stuff, but it's still like there's some aspect of it where I'm not going to be the bottom feeder. I'm going to be like, if I'm going to be some shady manipulating character, it's like the person from the top doing it, right? It's like
Right.
it's not going to be a drug dealer, right? Unless it's like upscale drugs. So
Right.
like I
No, you're
yeah,
more like Patrick Bateman than
yes,
whatever, like than his character from the Mark Wahlberg movie.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't talk about branding. Like what is Christian Bale's brand,
Yeah.
you
Well,
know?
look, I bet we could find out what his brand was when he was a younger man. But actually,
Yeah.
look at Batman, American Psycho, a couple other things, and you're like, there's a pretty tight relationship there, and then it gets to get, he obviously can do what he wants, and so it's like
Yeah.
it can go wild, but he carved a totally different path, being his brand became, I'm a chameleon, right?
Right. Same with Daniel Day-Lewis. Meryl
Yeah.
Streep's another one. But
Yeah.
where does branding show up, right? You might be thinking, this is all great, well, and good. If you're talking to 200 strangers and they tell you you look like an accountant, how does that help you with acting, right? So you found out what your baseline is. Branding, now, if we think about, and this is one of the things that I think makes acting a challenge, is that because so much of it is closely tied to you as a person, so it's naturally a little more difficult for you to see in yourself. But now we're talking about marketing materials that go
Yeah.
out to casting directors, producers that are going to tell them who you are, what you do for work, right? So you're now giving them the tools to activate their imagination and see you in roles. So headshots are a spot. So you want to think about like, how do we do a headshot that gives me the vibe or the essence that people on the, you want to make sure that it has that same essence that people on the street saw, a role close to that, right? I think that increasingly more so now, it feels like a headshot should be just a really good photo of you. And it should, when somebody looks at it, they should just be like, yeah, that feels like you. That's great.
Well, and the casting directors say this quite frequently now, which is like, it has to look like you, which
Yes.
I think is a referendum on decades of actors trying to make headshots be the best version of themselves, like the most beautiful or the most
Or
like
there's
like just or like imagine someone trying to show that they want to book younger parts and they're just
sure,
like it's touched up, it's like whatever, and then that person walks in the room and it's like, oh, you're not your photo, you're not the same person. So I think
sure,
that's where branding can get off track, because you can do yourself a disservice if it's actually not in. We live in the age of authenticity now, right? Now
yes,
more than ever, it's all about, is that walking in, who's walking in, which, just before I forget, like, we are trying to inspire their imagination casting, but they will use that material to sell you,
yes.
assuming you do a good job in the audition, to the network. And so they might
Or
show your headshots as like proof of concept for hiring this person.
But and also I know from casting, like when you're talking, like you've reviewed materials, you've held the auditions, people have left you with an impression of whether you like them for the role or not, or if they're good for the role or not. But then afterwards, when you're deliberating with your team, it's all looking at headshots.
Yeah.
So like the headshot is like the very first thing that gets someone to click on your profile and decide if you even get the audition, right? And there's a lot of casting that only look at the headshot, and a lot of it is just is the is the person the right age? Does it look like they could do the job? Does the archetype the writer have in mind? Do I think they could play that? Right?
And
Just based on
does
like,
it complement the other actors in the
does it
scene or
complement? Yeah,
whatever?
exactly.
Yeah.
So like that's in like the headshot is just the like on a whim. I know nothing about you. Do I? Yeah, I feel like that person can play the job, right? So like that's you're gonna get the audition. What about resumes? So what? How does branding show up in resumes?
Well, I think you can, if you have been booking a certain, if you've booked enough work over the year, over a few years, let's say, the those shows, if you just put everything you've ever booked on your resume, it doesn't help your brand, right? It
Right.
just tells you, or your brand is, I work. Maybe that's what you wanted to say, like, hey, book me, I'm reliable, I work. But you could curate that list on your
Mm-hmm.
resume and have it be, oh, you know what, I'm just going to do the big streamers, or I'm just going to do the networks. And now at a glance, the first, someone's going to look up your IMDb and see all your credits. But
Yep.
on your Actors Access or a hard copy resume, it's like, oh, this person's done quite a few multicams. Okay, they're a multicam actor. Or this person's done all the they've done Apple and AMC and HBO. Oh wow, they do prestige stuff, right?
Yep.
So I think you can manipulate it that way into a world. And that might not mean that you did play the same type of part, or that those things all fit in your brand, but you're sort of borrowing the brand of those shows and networks on your resume.
Yeah. I think what you're trying to do is you're trying to give the people making the decision the confidence that you could do the job,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because that's when they're kind of, where it'll go to, someone that's done it or done something closer. Like there's so many reasons outside of our control that you do or do not get a job. But what I think you can do with your resume is you can tell a story, or you can point people in the direction of the work you want to get, right? And that's the opportunity that you have. Because otherwise, if it is everything, it can kind of be overwhelming sometimes, especially if you've been at it for a while, right? Like if I had everything on my Actors Access, you'd scroll and at some point you're like, they don't care, right? So it's like you want to make sure you're pulling stuff out to be specific. And I think specificity is like the word of the career, right? Like you need to be specific as an actor, like when you're performing, but it's also like in your career, it's kind of fitting in with the like, there's a deliberate, intentional storytelling, right? You're revealing yourself. And I think that's, when you're trying to decide what do you want to show or not show, you truly know, right? And I think that you have to go with your gut. You have to go with your instincts because that's ultimately the only guiding light any of us have because nobody knows anything.
I just thought of like a metaphor of like for the resume, because I think the other thing is that you also want your brand separate from your character brand or your casting brand. I think we do want to show that you are a want your materials and your behavior to show that you're a professional, right? So I know we've mentioned like checking your emails and booking out with your reps, but going through your actors access and updating it, keeping it up to date, that adds to the professional brand. And if there's nothing wrong with having all your credits and wanting to show all your credits, but there's a difference between it just reads differently. If you were to go to oh shoot, what's the now I've forgotten Cheesecake Factory. if if we want to have all our credits on the actors access, but it reads differently. Cheesecake Factory menu reads differently than a prefixed menu that has like, no, you get these 3 courses.
Right.
And one is more elevated or elegant and maybe inspires a little more confidence
Yep.
than ordering all of the delicious stuff off of the Cheesecake Factory menu.
Right.
And then, the people making the decisions looking at it, they also know they can look at your IMDb, everything's there. They can, or they maybe already have a relationship with you. They can be like, oh, I know the thing that's off the menu. I know Sean can actually do this thing we're
Right.
asking,
Right.
like, or you're the Cheesecake person and you're the Cheesecake Factory person. You're just like,
Well, and
yeah,
there
here
are
it is. I work all the time. Come
yeah,
at
and
me.
there's certain roles or certain careers that lend themselves to that,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, and I think like you can make a really good living just being able to like bring yourself to a large like variety of like if you're just focused on quantity, right?
Yeah.
And you're not, if you're the type of actor that can just do anything at any time. And I what I mean by that is like you can read a script that isn't good and you're like, this is gonna be fun. Right? Like if that's you, then like you could probably work a lot and make a great living doing like B movie stuff. And that's not like that is a perfectly legitimate career. Right. And then if you're like for me, I'm unfortunately not able to do that because I want to fix every problem I see. I can't just like I don't find it fun to be like, well, this isn't going to work, but whatever. Like that is it gives me a lot of anxiety and I want to fix that problem. So like those aren't good scripts for me. So that means I'm going to work a lot less and I need to be more intentional about what I'm doing. It also means I have a day job because I don't want to just act to act. I want to like work in good stuff, but everybody's value system is different and they're all
Sure.
right and they're all wrong. It depends on what you want. Again, I think that's the thing that I'm going to keep falling back on is it like what do you want to do and does your material reflect that?
Yeah. I think that leads us nicely into like reels or clips.
Yep.
Um, I think the thing that I think gives your brand the most is your headshot and your footage, your reels
Sure.
or clips. So, but you can augment your clips by giving them very specific titles that add to the story of your brand, right? Instead of just saying like, "Oh, I played a dad on 911," it's like, "Oh, a grieved father, grateful
Yep.
for the firefighters, 911 Fox." To show, because maybe they won't click on it, but they glance at the title and they're like, "Oh, interesting, played a father." Boom. So you can put in little clues there, but your reel, I think, and this is something Sean and I have been talking about off mic, and maybe we'll talk on mic about it again. But I think crafting, you can have your basic reel, but you could also start as we try to create our own work and create our own opportunities, maybe making things like aspirational footage of like, I want to be in this world. I want to use this accent or show this side of myself and develop separate reels that would showcase some of that you could share with your reps to pitch you for those things that might be outside of your brand. or your bread and butter, but could elevate and give you opportunities to new markets, right?
Right. And I think the trick there is to make it look legit too,
Yeah.
right? Like you want it to look like it was a real project if you're shooting a scene or a clip for your reel. Where was I gonna go next? You said something that made me.
Clips, labeling the clips, or the
Well, I mean,
real
every interaction,
aspirational.
right? So, like, you need to think about marketing as every interaction that casting has with you is a chance to tell them what you're about. And that includes the titles of your clips, right? So, like, everything is an opportunity to sell yourself. So, just think of it that way. Of, if you're casting, and this kind of goes back to, you know, actors generally want versatility, right? We want to do everything because that's what we're trained, and that's what makes us exciting to do. Like what makes the job exciting for a lot of us is like, I don't want to go play myself. I need something that allows me to remove, that's like a step away. I need something that's at least one step away from myself, right? Like, and a lot of us feel that way, and that's where we kind of do our best work and what we like doing. But casting often wants clarity, right? So everything that you're doing, and again, this goes back to like the Cheesecake Factory, you're looking at a menu, is that when they're looking at your stuff, it needs to be like, if you go to a restaurant and you want steak and eggs, and then you see it and you read the ingredients and it's like something bizarre on there and it's not what you wanted, you're probably not going to order it, right? You're going to get something else. And that's kind of what they're looking at when they're looking at who do we call in for an audition. And it's like, all right, so we know we want this type of vibe that we're choosing based on headshots. And when we look at reels, that's like reading the ingredients, right? Like, it's what do they look like? What do they sound like? What is the emotional complexity of the scene, right? Like, are they an aggrieved father versus just like a dad on 911, right? Like that is something that at least you're managing their expectations. So that way when they click it, you can meet those expectations.
Yeah, and I think you want the reel to, well, I mean, you've kind of said this, but you want it to supplement what the parts of the story that are already selling. So if they're mostly looking at your headshot and you only have headshots of you in a suit, but you've only booked work as a bike courier, and like,
Yeah.
and it's like it's like, why is that
Disconnect.
happening?
Yeah.
So you need to go back to the headshots and tweak them for your reel, possibly,
Right.
or find footage for now. So it becomes this.
Well, and this
There's
is
always
also
something to spend money on in your
the,
career. So
yes,
we have to figure
for
out
time.
ways
Yeah.
to fail and to test, to have experiments and to test our brand and to Katie Astleton has a clip going around on Instagram right now from there was a female filmmakers conference weekends ago. And I saw she was like, you need to fail often and fail cheaply. Like that was
Yes.
her advice to people. And I think that can be applied to actors as well. So it's like, you don't need a whole new round of 5 looks of headshots with the other insanely expensive headshot photographer. You just need one additional photo maybe to like give that bike courier vibe. And
Right.
then you like find friends or you audition for student films or whatever you can get your hold of to try to get that lawyer clip or whatever that would match the suit, right?
Yeah.
It's just it's a jigsaw puzzle.
It is, and I think what prompts a lot of us to think about this too is when you're not getting work at all, or you haven't gotten auditions in a while, and that's where you need to, lean on your reps or lean on your friends and be like, hey, what's going on? Like, you're reading the tea leaves differently than I am. So what does the landscape look like? Am I just not getting stuff that I should be getting, which is like an indication that you need different headshots, or are they sending you for something that you don't want to do, or you don't have the materials for? So like there's some disconnect that's happening that you need to understand. So then that's the bridge that you're trying to make, right? And that's the opportunity you're trying to find, is the like, all right, so what is not working so that I can make a change? And then unfortunately, sometimes the thing that's not working is it's the industry and it's just like a weird time. So
Yeah.
there's large periods of downtime where things just don't happen for whatever reason out of your control. And the tendency is to want to fall back onto the like, spend money, make a change, do something radical. And that's not always the answer. And sometimes it's just slow.
Yeah. I almost want to breeze past website and social media, not even talk about it, but I guess those would add to your brand theoretically. But I'm not that interested in talking about it right now. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay, we can come back to those another time.
Well, they're also
Um,
not something that you really like. You know,
I don't think.
if you're sending an email to casting, you're not usually sending them to your website. You might include a link, but that's like they're going to Actors Access or they're going to
Yeah.
your IMDb.
We already kind of talked about segment 3 a little bit, but we could talk briefly. We could talk a little bit more in depth about it. Like, just what are the things you should ask, or I could talk about the SAG Foundation having those workshops and
Oh, well, let's
stuff.
do that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Or yeah, the what do people like? What shows do people, your friends, think you could be on?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So where did we leave off? Reels, clips, clarity. I forget what the last thing we said was.
I just started talking about like let's not do website social media. So like I
Yeah.
think that was
Yeah, we
you
kind
want
of
me to
wrapped
like
up the next thing. All right. Well, so let's say, all right. So this all sounds great, but how do you discover your brand? We touched on it briefly. Obviously, I had that friend that went around with a clipboard, but what are some other things that we can do? You could look, if you are finding work, what are you repeatedly cast as? And this is
yeah.
something actually that I found really helpful. Like when I first moved to Los Angeles and I did background work, I feel like background is really great for giving you like industry terms of the like upscale East Coast conservative, right? Like that's
Were you
usually
like getting it through central casting?
through
Those
central
two gigs?
casting.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
they branded you. They put you in
Yes.
a
Well, so
bucket.
you'd start to figure out what your pocket is, right? And there's like three or four things that I knew that if a show, I knew that if they needed a Hollywood type, I was getting called in. If it was lawyers, I was getting called in. If it was like, if it was a party, then oftentimes, well, it would kind of fall into probably the Hollywood type. So maybe those were like the two majors for me was the like, we need someone that looks like a celebrity that isn't. So sure. And then it was like somebody that looks really clean cut and polished, right? And those were kind of the main ones. Occasionally I would get like cool, I don't know. It was like I did a couple of young dads, but then they were like that went away pretty quick. So I don't know, it was interesting. It was a great experience. So like if you are newer to the industry and you're curious, I think background work is 100% worth it because you get so much out of it. You get comfortable on set. You get comfortable like learning what it does around these big cameras. You kind of learn the geography of how things work. You can get into the union that way, but then you also like you do this. It's like you discover your brand, right? Like it's a great. It's just another data point where you will
Well,
see a
and
lot
because
of things.
they're bringing you on
Yeah.
specifically for a show and they're saying
Or
you
I got a
read
lot of
this
military and a
room
lot of
and
police too. So like those, were
and you
common.
had to bring your own wardrobe or they would throw you in
Oh
wardrobe.
no, yeah, yeah. They put you in wardrobe. So like oftentimes there would be a fitting, and you'd go, and like depending on the show, right? Like NCIS is like really, really small. So like you're working in an office, and like, but you'd go to like it was almost like being a principal performer, where you would go on a separate day, do a fitting, and then you'd go and you'd work on the office, and you worked as an actor, you just didn't have lines, right? So like you would have specific things that they needed you to do, and
Sure,
sometimes
sure.
there's like genuine acting work, but like you'd start to, but through background and like, and then others were like you'd show up on a day and they're dressing 400 people, and then it doesn't matter, they just needed bodies, right? Like you're not going to glean a lot that day because they just needed anybody and everybody, but when you get
So
into
you
yeah,
so that sounds cool. Like, yeah, I
yeah,
think that's the casting. That's literally what central casting does. It's sort of
that's it.
like pigeonhole people and because they want it to be you want to be both
Well,
identifiable as this type at this
this
to build out the environment.
especially as background, right? So like
Yeah,
background doesn't have anything else to help them convey character or convey
the look and the
yeah,
clothes.
it's just the
Yeah.
look and clothes. Exactly. It was
So I
also
mean,
like the best 2 years of haircuts I've ever had in my life. But
oh wow, man, you're central. I did not. I would show up and they'd be like, "Those, that's what you have." They
uh,
wanted you to bring your own clothes,
oh yeah.
and
Sometimes on smaller stuff they would do that. Um, I found that a lot of studio work was
Mhm.
dressing you and putting you into stuff,
Cool.
which was fun.
So I guess, and obviously like if you're booking work as a specific type, what we've talked
Yep,
about, that would know. But I think if you have enough auditions to try to look through, like maybe from the past
like a
year or
trend.
past 6 months, I think you could do a similar exercise. It'd be like take all the auditions and just label them as like occupation or essence or personality of the character, and almost like do a word cloud and just see like which ones are popping to the top the most,
Yeah,
and that gives you a pretty clear idea of what your brand is right now according to the materials that are being sent out to casting, right? Because casting saw your headshot for that specific breakdown and said, yeah, I believe that this person is a like quirky hostess or
yeah,
whatever, right? But, in addition, like if you don't want to go out on the street and interview 200 people with a clipboard, you could always do like a Google survey with amongst your friends and have it be anonymous so they don't have to feel like they might accidentally hurt. I have friends
yeah,
every year. I think I have a different group of friends who I'm like, oh, we're doing a branding exercise again. And it's like, give me 3 words that express my type. So, which is good and it's nice. And you want to do those things for your
yeah,
friends, and it's all information that they can process to be like, how should I set up my next headshot? So they
yeah.
might ask about occupation, adjectives toward your personality or your
Sure.
essence.
Well, but I wonder like how much of that is actually useful. I think maybe better questions to ask is like what show do you think I could be on? Right? If you're watching TV, like is there a show, is there a role where you think I could be on? And I've had friends like non-industry friends have been a good resource for this. And they'll be the ones be like, "Oh, I was watching this thing and I totally thought about you." And I was like, "That should be Sean." And it's like, "That's very nice." And it's like a good little data point to be like, "Oh, okay, so maybe I should think about trying to get on Suits." Or, something that so it
Right.
just it kind of
Well,
gives you an idea.
I think it
It's
goes
just yeah,
it's a
it goes both
two-way
ways.
street, because if you get the shows and it's like someone gives you a list of shows or a group of people give you a list of shows to be on, you have to go through the process of being like, okay, let's watch those shows, see what type of co-stars and guest stars are on those shows,
Yeah,
and then what is the quality of those characters, like what is the like what, because you want something to communicate to, say, your headshot photographer,
sure.
or if you're going to create your own footage to copy that. So I would say do both,
Yeah, yeah.
like
Yeah, you're probably
ask
right.
for shows and movies and ask for like qualities and just be like, oh, okay, like you get like you you should be on For All Mankind because you have a period look and you're clean cut all American guy. Where else could that fit? Oh yeah, it could
Sure.
fit on Suits because they're lawyers. So we're talking about professionals now.
Yes.
And then like, well, where else do we have professionals? Oh, the Pit, doctors and EMTs.
Right.
And then Sean would go through the process of being like, well, I'm not gonna wear like necessarily like a blue work shirt like an EMT would wear for my headshots, but I would want maybe he would want to do a dress shirt that's actually pretty expensive and he plans on returning it. So just like the texture of it reads in the photos, like where can we layer in these little details and specificity to getting that look that you're looking for.
Right. Yeah, I think it is about communicating the vibe, right? Whether it is friendly, welcoming, trustworthy, right? Like you can do that. Your photographer can work with you to do that. And then you can pull samples, and try to find things that you like. And it is, I think it's a pitfall too to think about what looks cool or trendy or interesting sometimes. And I know I fall into this trap occasionally where it's like that isn't always the best thing for an acting headshot, right? Like it's nice to
Mm.
have portraits, but those aren't always like they're great for editorial, but they're not always, they look great on a website. It's like they look professional, and sometimes you see that as the thing for A-list actors, and I think there's a tendency to want to emulate that. But I think like for me, I fall into the trap of like I want things to look good and look a certain way, and that might not convey the thing that's going to get me cast. And I think that's what I'm trying to say.
What do you mean you want things to look good? Like
Well,
the
it's like I
photo?
might want something to look moody or to like be
But then
more
it's like that
artful,
might.
right?
Mhm.
It's like I might want to feel like it's like it is performance or it is art, but it's not like you're not modeling. I guess that's what I'm saying. Is
Yeah.
that like you don't want to fall into that where it's like I want really good photos of me. It's like if they're not conveying character or personality or professionalism in some capacity, they may not be helpful for you as an actor.
Yeah, and like it just so also everything we're talking about right now, like the crazy thing about it is like you might have to you might have to like have this conversation with yourself or with your friends every year or every couple years because when you first enter the business it's like I think younger me would have benefited a little bit from more branding or
Sure.
like figuring out where I'm fighting my brand, which I've certainly done, trying to be like a brooding, like tough guy.
Oh,
And I'm like, I
yeah,
don't walk into the room and no one thinks I'm picking a fight. Like, that's just
for
not who
sure.
I
No, I've done the
I
same
will
thing.
fight someone, but
Oh, but it's not going to be in that way,
but
right? No,
it's because someone's picking a fight with me first. Yeah.
yeah,
Like,
for sure. Yeah, it's like
um,
I'm more likely to defend someone's honor than like
yeah.
pick a fight because I want to fight, right?
Yeah, but
So
like,
yeah, yeah.
did I shoot so many headshots with like tough, cool guy jackets?
Dude, me
Like,
too, man. The amount that I've had with like leather bike jackets for some
yeah.
reason, like I'm part of the outsiders, and it's like I am way not part of the outsiders.
So I think I forget that. My point being like, what season and what phase of your career are you in?
Sure. Also
The
factor.
will factor in because and who your relationship with your reps, they might want to be involved in this and they might have some opinions about it. And I think you kind of go with the flow, like see what the data is telling you, and you can always do something on the outskirts, like to just be like, this one's for me. Like Sean wants a moody arty headshot, this is for Sean. Patrick wants the leather jacket, this is for Patrick. It might never get used, but I
But you have
got
it. Yeah.
it. But and then you because like I'm thinking of we'll do a headshots episode, and I think we might even do an episode where we sort of audit each other's materials a little bit if people are interested. Because
Let us know.
and
Ask at supportingactors.com.
supportingactors.com. When I say audit, I mean like see what are the materials. This is what the data is telling us based on our auditions or our bookings. This is what we have. Where do we individually want to push ourselves to try to do something else? And I think we have to challenge our assumptions after being in it for so long.
Yeah.
Of like, maybe I got to do headshots more frequently than I want. Most actors do headshots too often,
Yeah.
but I'm not one of those people. So
Nor am I.
maybe I got to go pay someone a little bit of money and like get that headshot that would just be a new
Well, and I think
link
you brought it up
jewelry.
earlier too, is that not every headshot session needs to be a wholesale replace
Right.
all
No,
assets approach, right?
especially the
Like,
longer you've been in it, right? You got to
yeah,
keep
so like if you
squirting.
have one or two headshots that are getting you called in, then you might want to just add another layer and you only need to do one look. You don't need to go spend a ton of money for four looks, right? So I think you just need to be aware of where you are in the process. But even getting
Yeah.
started, you could get started with one look.
Yeah.
You don't need to go crazy.
And if that look, I think my theory would be if that look lines up with your brand and your essence or your like who you are, like that's probably going to be a moneymaker right there, right? If it's
Yeah,
like,
and you're going to have a lot more fun interacting with the industry when you're getting called in for auditions, even if it's the ones you're self-submitting for, right? If you're before an agent, it's
yeah,
just even getting auditions is a huge feat because now every role gets 3,800 submissions, right? So they're not calling that many in. So you need to like, yeah. So if you're having fun that way, it's going to be useful.
When can branding go wrong? What are your thoughts?
I think if you're like, if everything looks the same, if it's repetitive.
Yeah, I think that where do you see that? Like I think when what that makes repetitive makes me think of people like, and you see it happens, but like when you get all your headshots and you have all these proofs and you're just like, there's like, it's like the same look even though you've changed your outfit, but you're like, oh, I really just lean into
I've
this
got
one
like,
direction and head tilt,
I've
and
got, yeah, I've got
my
one,
eyes are kind of dead the whole, or making the same
yeah,
expression. That's hard, and that I think takes time and comfortability with your photographer and being in front of the camera and
yes,
everything. But you can kind of see like, oh yeah, no, those are great headshots, but they're all the same. Like they're all telling me the same thing. It's the clothes have changed and maybe the backdrop has
yeah,
changed, but that's why I think those words are helpful in the marketing exercise of, or the branding exercise of like, you're warm, you're thoughtful, you're an older sibling or whatever. And then, okay, that's one outfit and backdrop. Now, what's if you're going to do a new look? Who's this character? Slightly different. Maybe they're a little more confrontational or a little full in a dorkier way. I don't know. Like, oh, I don't know. Same thing. I think I have one story of an actor who there was a time when marketing, a lot of actors was like the first thing you did was take this marketing course in LA. It was free, and then it was like they were selling you something else. And shops were happening a lot. And there was an actor who like branded themselves as their favorite food item, like at a chain. So they like co-opted a brand, and it was memorable. It was certainly memorable, and you saw it, and you're like, and I guess in a way it showed he was quirky or kind of funny, and certainly animated and youthful, and booked a gig where it was like set at that, like an amazing gig and set at that establishment essentially, and you're like, wow, he did it.
yeah.
It'd be like if I
You
got,
beat the game. Yeah,
you got like Pepsi Cola and you're like, you booked a job at Pepsi Cola Stadium or whatever. Like, then, I had the thought years later, like, what happened to that guy?
yeah.
And he dropped that bit. And I think it's still acting, but
Or is it
to
the
me,
dog
I
that
was like,
caught the rabbit? Now
it was,
there's no more
yeah,
chase in there. You know,
that brand was so narrow,
yeah,
right? That like maybe I think it appealed to some people,
sure.
but like it ran out of steam, or it didn't have an engine to keep that. You can't just keep doing that. It
Right.
also wasn't about him, I think,
Yeah,
which would be
I think that's another spot where the branding can go wrong is that, when it starts to alienate yourself, or, if you look on somebody's social media and it's literally just one thing, then it's not like you're not really revealing anything about yourself,
right.
and I think that's something that a lot of people want to see.
Yeah, yeah. It's making me think of Ken Jeong. He was a doctor in real life.
Yes, yes,
And I'm sure he has a headshot. I would bet money he had a headshot with a stethoscope, right?
100%.
And a lot of people did and do. I don't. I think that's too specific for a headshot. Personally, we'll talk
Yeah,
about it in another episode. But I'm sure it's like it got him, and also like the fact that his reps could say like, no, he's really a doctor, and then he books Knocked Up, I think, right? And it's funny, and then
yeah,
it's like, well, he's really funny, but
yes,
he didn't keep playing doctors.
no.
He played naked crime lords who jump out of suitcases. Like, played so many crazy characters because it was like his energy, his intensity, his humor was the thing that is his brand, I guess.
And I think that goes back to what I was saying at the beginning, where it's like the industry will tell you,
Yeah,
right? Eventually, like what your brand is.
yeah. I don't know. Gosh, we've kind of covered a lot of it.
We have.
what do you think? Let me wrap up with a question of like, we talked about authenticity and we've also been kind of talking strategy. Like, where do those two things, or what's the difference between them?
Sure, I think it's a continuum,
Yeah.
right? And I think you're trying to be in the middle somewhere. Right, right. If you're too authentic, you might not be, well, like, I don't know, I don't think you can ever be too authentic, but maybe if you're too unstructured, right, then like
Yeah.
that's a problem. And then you're trying to go back towards like, all right, let's be strategic, right? Let's think about what do I want to achieve. And like I think there's a lot to being strategic because it gives you a goal and something to work for. And like the goal should be loosely held in terms of like, all right, so you now know what you want to get there, where you want to go, how you get there doesn't necessarily matter, and that might change, right? Like as you approach it, but you need to still you need that strategic element there just to provide you some structure. And then I think you want to try to be as authentic as possible throughout that structure, but but that structure needs to be there.
Yeah. I think, yeah, you want to be who you want to be yourself, but you don't want it going everywhere because it's not needed everywhere. So that's just wasted energy, right?
Yeah.
So if yeah, that structure that you mentioned, that gives you the strategy and that gives you targets to aim for, I
Yeah.
think. And other targets are welcome.
Well,
Like that's the
it
thing.
also
It's like if you know what you're aiming for, you're gonna get auditions that don't fit that, and that's just an audition. Like it doesn't change
right,
anything. That's the 10% outside of the 90% of the things that you're gonna be getting wanting to go after.
for sure. Well, it also tells you what to say no to, right?
Sure.
If you want to be really specific and pursue something, then like it lets you know that the other stuff is not going to serve that goal necessarily.
Or
Now, I
say
mean,
yes, do it,
say yes
and
to everything.
then
Yeah, say yes to everything.
and
It's
then
the real answer.
cash the check and don't put it on your reel because it's confusing or
Right.
whatever, right?
Well, and you also never know who you're going to meet on a set
Yeah.
either. And like if you're getting to know crew people, other actors, they're going to go to work on other things, and you never know where those relationships might go, and who you might be friends with, right? Like that's the other part of it is that the your next collaborator might be on something you didn't think you'd like.
Right.
So that like and what a gift then saying yes is. I do think early on, unless you do not have time, you kind of have to say yes to everything
Sure.
whether it's part of your brand or not. It's just say yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and just find out, like, find
Yeah.
out what.
You kind of discover it as you go. And I think it changes too over time.
Yeah, yeah. I think I mean, you get. I was, you get older, you get your look changes slightly, but you also, when you're young, you sort of mature at a faster rate, and I think like so like year to year, your headshots do feel drastically different, but then you hit your 30s and it doesn't change as much, so you can kind of like just ride a look for a little while, but um, you also learn more about yourself and your energies and what people respond to, and like you let go of a lot of the insecurities that force us to spend all this money on branding and
Yeah.
extra headshots we don't need. So and I think, right, this conversation has been helpful for me, or is interesting to think about, because it's like, okay, well, what's the opposite? If I'm now not in a place where I feel compelled to do all the work, what should I be, what part of that work am I avoiding that I should be doing? Like
Right.
and probably some of that is redefining my vision, that, I held on to this vision of what my career would look like in my early 20s, and
Sure.
I probably have to redefine it, right? So every company goes through a rebranding
Well,
probably every 7 years to 10 years or something.
if
They do
not
some
less,
rebrand. Yeah.
right? So it's like, a company is doing a 3 to 5 year plan every year
Hmm.
because they're constantly recalibrating. And, the further out your plan is, the less specific it's going to be, just because then you're starting to get into like general guides, right? But I think when companies come and do a major rebrand, it's like something is not clicking, right? Like they're losing market share, their audience is turning away. Maybe some of them have been dormant for a while and they haven't had someone come back. So it's like a rebrand is a way to just recapture attention you previously had. And that works for us too as actors.
Yeah. Yeah. I might need a rebrand.
You and me both, brother.
We wrap up with some ad libs.
Let's do it.
What's bringing you joy?
For me, the ad lib I've got this week is we just had Father's Day this last weekend, and every year in Beverly Hills they have this big like Father's Day car show. And I went this year, brought my 2-year-old son. He was more interested in walking around, but it was really fun to see some cars. It's like super busy, and like the cars are crazy, either old or exotic or both. And yeah, we did that, and we had some lunch. So my ad lib this week is going to be the Beverly Hills Car Show on Father's Day.
Nice. Okay, mark your calendars for next year.
Next year, yeah.
We discovered a show. I heard about a show from a friend called Alice and Steve, and it's on Hulu. It's a British comedy. It's 6 episodes. They're 30 minutes long, and it's really funny. And also, I found it very human. And just there's so much about the show that was clicking for me creatively in terms of the humor, the relationships, the portrayal of families, the portrayal of modern day. It's about a 25-year long friendship between Alice and Steve, and then he starts dating Alice's daughter. So trigger warning for the patriarchy, but men being dumb. But they handle it really well, and they make fun of themselves. Like it's just really smartly written. And Ryan Clement is in it, and sort of like a straight man of sorts. He's still pretty funny. And Paula Walker is the actress in it, and she's really just awesome. Everyone's really good. We plowed through it this past weekend. It was like, oh, that show's done, but it was really enjoyable. So
I'm gonna add it to the list.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning in and listening to another episode of Supporting Actors. You can reach out to us if you want to be part of the conversation at ask@supportingactors. Please leave us a comment wherever you're listening to this. Like us, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. We're available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, major platforms. This has been Supporting Actors. I am Sean Dubé.
I'm Patrick Quinlan.
And tune in next week when Patrick and I reveal how much sleep you need for your hair to curl itself appropriately.